Hey guys, SoCal Val here. You are listening to the Hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Burrows, and as always, I'm joined by my illustrious co-host and good friend, tag team partner, Mr. Adam Cousins. Adam, how are you, brother?
Yeah, I'm all right. Are you sending that rain my way, though?
Yeah, it's about to pour down your way, mate. It's about to. Which is a shock in England. It's raining. But Adam, we are here with another amazing interview. When we started this podcast and this show and the YouTube, we said there's a few people that we'd like to get on. One of them people are here with us now. Someone that we've wanted to get on this show for a long, long time. Someone that we spoke about a lot on our show. Adam, you are the king of the intro, my friend. Who have we got today?
Before we do that, I just want to say two things just before we start. One thing is we want to send well wishes to John Moxley and Adam Cole after their injuries last night at Dynamite. Adam Cole obviously had an ankle injury. Moxley got looks like a very nasty concussion with his match with Ray Phoenix. So first things first, we want to send their well wishes to them.
Definitely, most definitely.
Second thing is, and the one thing we are not talking about today, it is a very kind of saddish day for a lot of people in WWE. They are doing roster cuts right now. This show is not going to be about that at all. We wouldn't even ask our guest anything about that. It's about our guest and his great career and everything that he's doing. And we may talk about that next week on the show or maybe during our Raw review, but we are definitely not mentioning that today. And we do say anyone that's left the WWE today, the door of opportunity will always be open elsewhere, and I'm sure it'll be fine. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get on with our guest. I mean, our guest was tough enough. You know, and he won it. A three-time hardcore champion. He's had the massive claim to fame was being one of only a few people eliminated The Undertaker from the Royal Rumble, albeit I don't think anybody else got the kicking afterwards that he got.
I got the arse whooping that he got.
Yeah, it was amazing for us to see, but he's also a massive now YouTube sensation with 104,000 subscribers in 2 months. It's 106 now.
106.
100. Cool. I've got to make sure I get those extra thousands in. I mean, one of them is us, by the way. We will do. But it is Maven Huffman. Maven, hello and welcome to the show.
Thank you guys so much for having me. And I know we're not going to talk about it, but I will say this about the roster cuts. I was involved in a similar roster cut like that in 2005. It was during the summer, and they released a bunch of guys, me included. So just to everyone who is involved in that, know that bigger and better things might be coming your way.
Yeah.
So just keep your head up, and I know it was the end of the world for me for a few days, and then I kicked back in, and I was like, things are going to be okay. So yeah.
Exactly.
Maven, obviously, you're most known to a lot of us. You burst onto the scene with Tough Enough. I absolutely loved Tough Enough when it first come on to our screens over here in the UK. Did you think that Tough Enough would have the impact on your life that it's actually had to this point?
Well, it's weird. I knew that if this is a way to answer it, I thought if I won Tough Enough, my life would never be the same. I thought if I lost, my wrestling dreams would probably be over, and that I was probably wrong about, because I see guys like Chris and Josh who went on, and a lot of other guys who went on to careers even after they didn't win Tough Enough. So it was weird. I was like all or nothing. If I won, then my life will be different. If not, I'll get a regular job again, which that was probably incorrect. But you're right, man. If you watch during the finale of Tough Enough, they say my name, and for a split second, you see me kind of lower my head. And that was just me. I still remember thinking nothing will ever be the same ever again. And it truly hasn't been.
What made you want to apply for Tough Enough in the first place? I mean, obviously you've answered probably loads of questions about the process and what it was like winning and then getting into the WWF, WWE. But what was it for you? Were you just like a lot of people? Did you just grow up as a crazy wrestling fan? And I mean, Adam's mentioned a few times on our show, he's tried it for he went and done a wrestling school and lasted all of 10 minutes. It was probably a little bit longer than 10 minutes. It lasted a month. Sorry, it was a month. I've ran the ropes once at an independent show we done, and I was like, fuck that, this hurts like hell. I'm never doing this again. But what was your process of you from the very first start of it when you thought, you know what? I'm going to apply for this. Let's not get into when you actually went on and won it, but what was the process of you just going to apply for the show?
Well, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I was just from my early childhood, I was just the biggest wrestling fan. And it's weird because I know a lot of people, grow up watching WWF at the time programming, watching the Hulk Hogan's and Macho Man's and stuff. I grew up down in the South, in Virginia. I was watching Crockett promotions. I was watching guys like Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson. One of my favorite wrestlers, a guy I actually got to see a few months ago, and I got to thank him for just inspiring me, Magnum TA. Oh. I was just the biggest fan. It was the one thing that even as a child, and I'm talking like a 7 or 8 year old child, my mom would let me stay up till 2 a.m. and watch it. And so I was just always a fan, obviously. Once I think I got into high school and, playing sports, I didn't watch as much. But then, in college during the wrestling wars of the late 1990s, which to me is some of the best wrestling ever. And in college, we had two TVs set up in my house so we could watch, one was on Nitro and the other one was on Raw. And but I always had buddies that would always be like, man, you could do this, because I was like, I've always been able to talk. And they were like, you should learn how to do this. But how do you become a wrestler? Who knows? It's like asking me, how do you become a marine biologist? I mean, obviously, I guess you go to school, but how do you become an astronaut? Who knows? And when JR said, have you ever wanted to be a wrestler? I was like, yes. But even then, no part of me thought, I sent a video in almost as a joke, and no part of me saw myself getting picked, and much less winning. So, it's been a whirlwind ride. I'll be honest with you. 22 years have went by mighty quickly.
I bet.
They certainly do. We're going to just talk. We obviously mentioned Tough Enough. I want to know that first night after you won it, when you had your sort of your debut and you're back in Gorilla. And I know you didn't like your entrance music, but a lot of people do. I've still got it on my iPod.
We know for a fact you hated it.
But anyway, but when that first time live TV, the music hits, what's going through your mind?
Just probably I would say the most fear I've ever had in life. And because I mean, at that point, if I mess up, I'm not messing up in front of Al Snow. I'm not messing up in front of, just my trainers. I'm not messing up at HWA, at developmental. I'm messing up in front of the whole world. Yeah. And so there was a lot riding on that. And I knew they wanted to do a Tough Enough 2. If I mess up, it's harder to pitch a Tough Enough 2. So just ultimate fear, followed by just the greatest elation of my life after it actually was done, and just being thankful that Taz got me through it. A lot of people don't know, like, that first match, Taz, he busted my eardrum with that smack, like, for a shoot, busted my eardrum. And it's weird saying this, but that was like the best injury ever because I felt like I earned it. And obviously I didn't complain, but I just remember being done with it and knowing, okay, now I know I can do this. And it's like I'll never know what it's like to win a Nobel Prize. I'll never know what it's like to, save a life, or, have to dive in a body of water with a knife in my mouth to, free some children from drowning. But I know what it's like.
Sounds like a reality show that I'd watch.
Exactly, yeah. But I know what it's like to be terrified and get through that and perform in front of millions of people. So I'm happy about that.
You mentioned there, obviously, like about paying dues and stuff. I've listened to a lot of interviews with the Miz, Mike Mendoza. What was the reaction to you coming through from the boys in the back? Because you hear stories about wrestling, about paying dues, about so the Miz, as we all know him now, come through from reality TV, and we heard about him getting changed in parking lots, in bathroom stalls, and he wasn't very welcome. How was it with you? Because you went through the WWE process. As in, it was their show. You applied for it, so you went on their reality show. But when you get there, what's the reaction from the old school guys? We'll get onto a little bit of the Taker talk later. But obviously, we hear things in like me and Adam have watched wrestling our whole lives. We can't. I'm interested in the behind the scenes and the business side of it. What's the reaction from the boys when they might have viewed some people from reality TV as not paying their dues? What was the reaction to you from the veterans of the company?
Yeah, and you know what? They wouldn't be wrong. And I knew going into it that there were going to be guys that just didn't like me for whatever reason. But I understood the reason, and it's the reason they had was justified. I had the attitude of, if they don't like you, it's not that they dislike me; they dislike the position I was put in.
Mm-hmm.
And I also said, if I'm here long enough, I can win them over.
Yep.
If I keep my mouth shut, if I go out, do what I'm told, never, ever bitch. That was my one thing. I'm never going to come back after a match. And if somebody stiffs me, if somebody hits me hard, don't say anything. Mm-hmm. And I never did. And I said, over time, I just believe in myself enough. I think I can win people over, and I would like to say I for the most part, I think I did. There were obviously, there were some people that didn't like it, but they had every right. They had spent their entire lives wrestling in bingo halls and high school gymnasiums in front of 20 people. I understood why they were upset, and they had that right. But I feel like I was there long enough, and to this day, if I'm at a convention or something, some of the people that hated me from the start, and I don't want to give too much away because we just shot a video on it. But I'll say it. Devon hated me, made it known he hated me.
Just because of the process you had gone through.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And he's probably my best friend in the wrestling business to this day. We talk all the time. I love him like a brother. I'd take a bullet for him in the leg. So like I knew I could win these guys over, but at the same time, I knew that what they felt was justified.
Okay.
Interesting. Before we get to the Rumble and Taker and all that fun, your first WrestleMania 18, I believe, the first one, you had Goldust.
It was.
You met.
Yeah.
I've had fortunate in my life to been to 5 or 6 WrestleManias. But this was WrestleMania 18. That week, I'm guessing it's still as like it is when I went. It's not even just a day no more. Obviously, it's 2 days. Yeah. But you're there. You do all this week. What's that day, WrestleMania day, like as a wrestler?
Well, nothing can prepare you for it because as a fan, you don't realize what all goes into it. But you're right; it's an entire week. And when I was there, they would fly us directly from Monday Night Raw. And actually, at the time, we were still filming SmackDown on Tuesdays. So they would take us directly from SmackDown to that week was Toronto, and immediately. And from that point, the press starts immediately. The media days, they start immediately. And your time, it's pretty full. If I had a couple hours to get a workout in, I was happy about that. And it's just such a whirlwind. And then leading up to that day, it's hard to believe that many human beings can be in one building watching something as small as a 20 by 20 ring. But it happened. And I remember walking out and just looking, and it's just never seen a sea of people. And to think, most of these people are looking at me right now. It's still just baffling. And I go back, and I'm probably happy that I didn't know what I know now, because ignorance is bliss in a lot of scenarios, that being one of them. Because if I knew what I knew now, I'd have probably been a lot more terrified. But at that point, I was still just listening to it. I was working with good guys, Goldust, professional.
Yeah.
Legend.
And yeah, like I mean, he could probably walk a broomstick through a good match. And I literally was just going through, and at that point, still not trying to mess up. And yeah, most people don't realize, because everybody wants to talk about the Undertaker drop kick spot, and people forget to realize I missed the drop kick on that WrestleMania. The one he's holding the trash can, I completely whiffed it. Yeah. And Vince chewed my ass as soon as I got backstage. He was like, "You got one move. You got one move, and you miss it."
You fucked it up. Maven, you mentioned him there, Vince. And obviously at the start of the show, we mentioned you as a fan. You're like us, and it would be a bit like me being coached by Joe Gibbs. I'm wearing my Commanders gear as my man.
Do we have to get on with that again?
He is a fellow Washington Commanders Redskin fan, so in homage, I'm wearing my Commanders gear. But what was it like for you? Obviously, I mentioned there it'd be like me getting coached by Joe Gibbs. What was it like from you you've gone through the whole Tough Enough process, you've got it to the WWE. What's it like dealing with Vince McMahon? I mean, we hear, you've heard, there's thousands of stories about what goes on backstage and like what he's done with talent. You just mentioned that he busted your balls for messing up the one move that you had. What was it like for you though? You've gone through the Tough Enough process. You're like, right, I'm here now. Then you've got to deal with Vince McMahon. I mean, how much hands-on did he have with Tough Enough, and obviously what went on? But when you've eventually got to the main roster, are you kind of like, holy fucking shit, Vince McMahon literally he's here in Gorilla. What was it like just dealing with him? Because, you know, I mean, like I've just said, if I had to go and like chat to Coach Gibbs about becoming the quarterback of the Washington Commanders, I'd be like, oh my God, you literally went from being a wrestling fan to learning how to do it. Everyone's dream is to one day walk out at WrestleMania. But what's it like dealing with Vince McMahon?
You realize quickly, obviously intimidated. Obviously, and great Joe Gibbs reference. Best,
thank you, sir.
Hey, not many coaches has 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks.
This is true.
Yeah, but you quickly realize Vince is a businessman. Vince from the very start, and I don't know how much he had input he had on Tough Enough until the very end, because he didn't become a reality to us until like the very ending process. But once I was on the roster, you see Vince, and obviously he's backstage at Gorilla at every show. I mean, not the non-televised ones, but every Raw, every SmackDown, every pay-per-view, he's sitting right there at the monitor. But Vince used to stop me and give me like little pointers here and there, and he was always extremely encouraging. But if you messed up, I mean, he'd jump your ass. But I wouldn't expect any less from anyone from any other job. If you're not doing your job, your ass deserves to be chewed out. And why would I expect less from him? But I've said it in plenty of other interviews. Vince is a businessman. He signs the front of the checks, and I sign the back. And like I realized that all he wanted was to put a good product out. Put a good product out that people enjoyed, that can make some money. And I mean, he took a carnival attraction that started in probably like the 1920s, and he turned it into 100 years later, it's $1 billion industry. So man's doing something right.
Yeah,
a multi-billion-dollar now.
Yeah, UFC are involved now. Jeez.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Let's talk about that Pacific Royal Rumble then. We might as well.
Get it out of the way. I'm sure he's never ever spoke about this. We're going to get an exclusive here.
Yeah,
this will be a first.
Yeah, the first. Yeah, first today maybe. But there's actually some fan questions that come off of it, so it's probably good that I've got them here. So Andy, I know you didn't get them. I've got them here, so we'll do it. But I'm not going to talk about the actual spot itself. But anyone that doesn't know, you can go on the WWE Network, you can go on YouTube. Maven eliminates The Undertaker from the Royal Rumble, which is pretty much unheard of. Not many people have done it, I don't think, in the time, especially not then. The crowd goes nuts. And I think there was a big more nuts with surprise more than anything else.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, Undertaker then decides to. I think was it a popcorn thing he threw you through or some kind of.
It was beat the living shit out of you.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
He hits me with a chair, throws me over the barricade, beats my ass up the stairwell to the 200 section, and throws me through a popcorn machine. So,
as you do on normal pay-per-view TV. I know that you and Undertaker had a few gentleman jacks, shall we say, a few shots of the JD. One of my favorite drinks when I was younger. What was it like? Because obviously Royal Rumble, normally is Pat Patterson's baby. He's the one that's on it. When you get there, two things. Number one, you find out you're eliminating the Undertaker, and number two, number one, how was that? What was going through your head when you got that, and how was the Undertaker backstage with you at the time when obviously you've got to plan this stuff out?
My reaction immediately was, because I didn't know. They told me Les Thatcher the day before in HWA. I was just in HWA training.
Yeah.
And a couple of the guys I was training with were like, yo, they might, because we were just coming off Tough Enough. I think I'd been on televised programming 4 times at that point, or 3 times. And they were like, yo, they might bring you in for the Rumble. And I was like, I don't know. And then Les told me, you're going to the Rumble in Atlanta. You're flying out tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. But of course, I thought, guest spot, run in, take a couple, throw a couple punches, get thrown out, and be done with it. And when I got there, and I think I got there around like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they immediately were like, go to the ring now. You need to see Shane and Taker. And they were at the ring. And when Shane told me, Taker looked at me and went, what the fuck? And I was like, oh God. Like, I was like, fuck, he doesn't know. And he was ribbing me. But the fact that, anything like that has to be run by Taker. From that moment on, he became he went immediately into that mentor mode. He almost transitioned to like Al Snow was for me, because obviously he knew how terrified I was. But that rest of that day, he was just making sure I was calm, which is where the Jack Daniels came from. He just took care of me that day, to where when I went out, he told me, he was like, you have one job. You hit me with that drop kick. He's like, because that's the one thing I can't control. Everything else he was in control of. He was like, if you miss the drop kick, I can't do anything about that. He's like, you just hit me with that, I'll take care of everything else. And he was right. That was the only thing I really had to do. And that's why I kicked the shit out of him. I laid it in, because with his back turned to me, if I would have whiffed him, if I would have missed him, he wouldn't have been able to sell it, and it just would have looked like shit. The fact that this many years later, it still looks like a good spot, makes me happy. But yeah, all that subsequent stuff afterwards, man, I'm on cloud 9. Him hitting me with the chair, I was happy about that, because I hit the drop kick. Once that was over, everything else was cake. Selling, getting punched, going up the bar, easy. All of it, easy. Yeah. Popcorn machine, easy. Because I hit that drop kick. Well, because think about it. If I miss the drop kick, like let's say I whiff it. And then Taker's stuck in there. How's he getting out? I'm not clotheslining Undertaker over the damn top rope.
No.
How the hell is he getting eliminated?
Yeah.
So, only thing I don't know that, but what I do know is my bags would have been packed when I got back to developmental.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I was worried about. And once that happened, I was like, all right, cake. This rest of it's cake.
Let's do it. It's not even a fan of the show. It's actually one of our, we partner with a wrestling company over here in the UK called Ignite Pro. We've done it. We've run our own event with them. We've now got our own title, which was the first winner was won on Sunday. But the owner of Ignite Wrestling Pro, CJ Carter, actually sent you a question, and it was kind of like after that, because it was this big, huge moment. You eliminated Undertaker. Yes, you got your ass handed to you afterwards. And it could have looked like it acted as a springboard, but it didn't didn't necessarily go, apart obviously you had the thing what Gold does. Do you think they could have done more with it going forward after that stage, or you're happy with what it was?
No, I'm happy. That's a great question, actually. I think it would have fell flat if they would have tried to do too much, because then they would have just been putting too much on me. I think it made sense to say that I've gotten this far. I think, and I did it at WWF New York at the time. I think I went out and I said, I've gotten this far, I've done this much, but there's obviously stuff I need to learn. So I'm going off to developmental, which was 100% true. And I think that, I think it made sense that it's almost like, hey, we'll go back to the football analogy. Whenever there's a quarterback that gets drafted and they throw him in too early, I'm always 100% sure he's going to fall flat on his face. But if someone
you're a
gets
Washington
to go
fan, you've seen a lot of them.
100%. But if someone gets to sit like Aaron Rodgers did behind a legend like Brett Favre for 3 years, then by the time he comes back, he's a little bit more ready. I needed to be polished a little bit more. But then again, I went and I was only there in developmental a couple months when they called me up to start working with Taker again, to do we did the hardcore title. And then I think probably 6 months later I was on the road full time.
Yeah.
And here's what's funny.
One question.
What I will? Hey, what I will? It's funny. Like most guys, when they're in developmental, they get told they can leave developmental. Like, you're done. I just stopped going. I was on the road.
Just didn't turn up.
And I was it was I want to say probably 3 weeks in a row that I was on the house shows and whatever. And I was I'm not I want to go home. I want some time off. So I just stopped going. No one ever said anything about it, ever. Ever. And I was so shocked because I was God, they're going to jump my ass and ask me where I'm at. No one ever said anything. Ever.
Wow.
And I don't know how that was possible.
There's one more question. We also sponsor wrestlers over here in the UK and WOWs, actually. And this comes from one of the wrestlers in WOWs, actually. And they've got the best tag team name we love the tag team name. They're called Beers and Beatdowns. So that's a great, love it. Name. And we talk about the Royal Rumble, and he said, can we ever expect to hear Mercy drive a Royal Rumble and you come running out?
Oh my God! Please tell me that could happen.
It's not like I'm not open to it, but I do know that at 46, I definitely, if they wanted a drop kick, I don't throw them as well anymore.
You make sure you stretch backstage properly, Maven, if you get the call up for this year's Rumble.
I would be terrified to end up like poor Shane did at Maven.
Oh yeah. Geez,
oh my God. That would be just, I don't know. I just know that most things in life don't get better with age other than wine. So if I was to ever do anything in the business again, I can take an occasional bump, but I would hope it would be more of a mouth where I can run my mouth, rather than these kids these days, man, they're just too athletic. They're just too good. They're doing, they do shit that I'm just I wouldn't try that in a pool. Those flips Ricochet does, I wouldn't try it in a pool. So I'm wow, I had my run. I couldn't do that. I'm good where I'm at.
One question I'd be interested to know, Maven, it'd be we've got WWE NXT now, and it's been great for Becky Lynch, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, etc. Once Tough Enough was done, do you think if something like an NXT was around, that would have benefited not just you, but future people that are coming out of Tough Enough, if they'd got into what is now WWE NXT? Because I do feel a little bit sorry for sometimes. So a lot of the people that come out Tough Enough, they're just like you said, next thing you blink and you're on the main roster. You're like, hang on a minute. Do you think that the longevity of Tough Enough and people that have come out of Tough Enough would have lasted a little bit longer if you could have gone into what is WWE NXT now?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of benefit of just being put on a live broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in developmental, we at HWA, we would go travel every Sunday to OVW to do our live show, just because they wanted us to know what the pressure of being on live television was like. I think that would have benefited everybody. I think, more, you might not have had so many people quit Tough Enough just because it got hard. If they knew something like NXT existed, somewhere they could go start making money immediately and have a platform, a pretty big damn platform too. All NXT is early days OVW,
Yep.
you know, just with the volume turned up. Because we were doing that in OVW back in 2001, but just at a very, very smaller and a lot less produced clip.
Yeah, and Al Snow's still doing it now. If you look at the Netflix documentary, he's still doing it now.
I binged that documentary over the weekend. It's amazing.
Yep.
Like Al's gold. Like anybody if you don't like Al Snow, the problem's with you, not with Al. Like I can promise you that. And like he's just such that father figure role, and to show that, I watched it and I binged it all last weekend, and I texted him and I was like, great story. I was like, you guys told a story that needed to be told. And he replies to me, thanks, kid. He's like, I'm 46 and he still calls me kid. But yeah, so yes, NXT would have been a welcome sight. We had NXT, just a less produced one, but it was called OVW at the time. And there was not the money, and it was like, because I went a couple years ago down to the training facility in Orlando. It's a cross. If you took a professional sports franchise like their training facility, and if you took all that and put a wrestling ring, several wrestling rings in there in a studio, there's NXT. I couldn't believe it. They had full gym. They had a hairdresser there.
You don't need that, mate. I'm not going to lie, mate. You don't need that.
Yeah, brother. This looks. Yeah.
Hey. Yeah. You two definitely don't need to go to the NXT hairdresser.
We do not. This look has been the easiest look I can think of since tonight.
Exactly.
Oh, great stuff.
I just need to ask a question because I've always wanted to know this. Obviously, I've been to WWE events, but there's nothing like standing in that squared circle. When you've got a match, say, and someone like Triple H's music hits, and you're standing opposite way, what is it like when that music hits and he comes out, he does all that water for the person? Because obviously, the Undertaker was more of the biker Undertaker when you were there, so I don't know. Obviously, we've spoken to people about when the Undertaker comes out in the hat and the coat. But what's it like with like a Triple H when he comes out and you're standing across the ring and watching that?
Can I give you a different example?
Go for it.
I have Ric Flair.
Okay, Ric Flair, go for it.
And here's why I use Rick. So, like I mentioned earlier, Rick. I mean, I was watching Rick, and I was emulating Rick in the way he cut promos. At 7 years old. And the first time I ever wrestled him live, like one-on-one, was in Dallas, and it was in the American Airlines Arena at a house show. And I go out and my music, and then Rick comes out. And the minute that you hear those horns and the wah, and then Rick's coming out, I'm transformed back to being a child. And I'm standing there like this. And Michael Chioda, the ref, comes up to me and whispers in my ear, stop being a fan.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And like probably for 30 seconds, I'm just literally, to me, I have the best seat in the house.
Yeah,
I'm not wrestling the guy. I'm not working with him. I'm transformed back to being a fan. And guys that Hunter's entrance was always cool watching. And the best part about that isn't watching their entrance; it's watching and listening to the crowd reaction.
Yeah,
because you can go from like just a steady low decibel roar to, I mean, just an ear shattering, just blast of noise with something as simple as breaking glass, or Rock saying if you smell, or that guitar for Hunter, immediately. And it's quite magic to think that you can elicit that reaction from human beings with something just as simple as an entrance, and you can get that many people to do exactly what you want and react the exact way you want. That's that to me is the magic of and that's why wrestling's hard to get out of your system, because once you leave it there, you're not going to get it back. I walk into this office daily and ain't no music going off, ain't nobody yelling.
Got all the staff there just lined up waiting to cheer you.
Yeah.
Maven,
what's yelling for me?
What's surprised? I've got kind of a double-sworded question here. What was the one thing that surprised you most about the wrestling business? And now that you've been involved in this the industry that we all love, just as fans, what advice would you give to people now that are trying to get involved in it? But yeah, first of all, what surprised you the most about this industry?
By far the time, just I mean, I've said it before. My accountant did my taxes one time, and I think I had like 100 days off, and 1/4 of those days were travel days.
Mm-hmm.
Like I literally would travel half the day and get home, and so I mean, if you can count that as a day offshore, but just if we would have 2 days at home, that was a lot. And then a lot of those times you're doing media days and you're doing interviews and and just trying to pump towns. So yeah, people get to see a couple hours a week
Yeah.
of what goes into a lot bigger of a production, and then just the whole travel aspect of it. During Tough Enough, Stone Cold said something that it took me a while to figure out, but he was 100% right. He said they don't pay me to wrestle; they pay me to travel.
Yeah.
And this was at the time when wrestling to me was still terrifying. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so hard. But then eventually, once I learned psychology and I learned, how to put matches together and what to do, and wrestling became the easy part, then I was like, yeah, he's 100% right. I don't dread the wrestling. The wrestling's the fun part. The traveling's what I dread. Knowing that I have to be in Albuquerque by way of Charlotte, and the Charlotte layover's 2 hours, and if I miss my connection there, my God, I don't have a clue how I'm gonna get to Albuquerque. And then pray my bags get there. And if they don't, then the next night I gotta drive to Yuma. And if I'm in Yuma and my bags are in Albuquerque, how am I figuring that one out? Just a lot goes into it that you don't realize that these guys, when you're watching, you don't realize they're still human beings, and we still. Bad stuff still happens to us. Traffic jams still happen. I remember we left the show one night, and it was a modest 2-hour drive. Well, it was a 2-hour drive before we were stuck in a 5-hour traffic jam from a wreck. Oh. And and it's just like that. Just that makes the 7-hour drive to the next town. It makes for a long night. So that's the stuff that you would have never guessed. That's the stuff they don't tell you about when you're training. And what was the second part of that question?
So obviously now it's gone kind of full circle. What advice do you give to people wanting to get into the business? Obviously, you went through the Tough Enough process. Obviously, I'm not just going to say it's easier now, but you've got NXT, you've got people coming up from the indies. There's a lot more indie, but people must have come to you and said, look, Maven, I want to get involved in this industry. What advice are you now passing forward from the experiences that you had?
Get good training. Find a good school. Find someone like a Brian Myers who has Creative Pro, and Devon School is great. Booker's School in Houston. Get somebody that isn't just trying to take your money, that knows and can, because if you have talent, you want somebody that can put you in front of the right people. I know for Brian Myers, a good buddy of mine who I do a lot of work with. I mean, he trained MJF, and look at him. I could make a strong argument that MJF's the best heel in the world right now. I can make a very strong argument with that, And and think about it. He started at a small wrestling school in Long Island, but I think it was a combination of getting the proper training, having the right contacts that Brian had to be able to put him in front of. And Max passed it, same trained at the same place, and look at both these guys. And then just taking what they had and being able to translate that into something that the audience would want to see. But I've done so many indie shows since my departure from WWE, and there's good wrestlers there that probably just didn't have the right training, or maybe someone who had a great look and they're the shits in the ring, and it's just because they just didn't have the right people showing them what to do. And they maybe go into somebody's backyard, learn how to hit the ropes, and then they think they're a wrestler. Well, it took us weeks to learn how to hit the ropes. We didn't even touch the ropes for weeks. So there is a process to all this. And so just find a good school, find a reputable school, find somebody that if you do have what it takes, can transition you from that unknown to, hey, this guy might be someone that we want to take a look at.
Last question about wrestling before we move on to YouTube and that success.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
There was a little. You spent a little bit of time with TNA. You done a little bit of running there with Jeff Jarrett. Was there ever anything more than just those shows, or was there actual interest there at the time to bring you in?
Well, if there was interest, I never heard. I would talk to him at that, at those shows and everything. But I was transitioning, and I don't want to say I was bitter towards wrestling, because obviously I still loved it. I still wanted to do it. But I had interest in other avenue. I wanted to, I know I liked entertaining, and I know I liked hosting, and I wanted to just dip my toe into other opportunities. And I'm glad I did. Obviously, and you don't think this when you're young, but you always think wrestling will always be there. And because there was even an opportunity for me to go back to WWE, and I didn't, and it was my choice. Wow. Yeah, and but at the time, I'm like, I can go back another time, and then all of a sudden I wake up and I'm 45, and I'm like, oh shit, I couldn't do it if I wanted to now. But when hosting, probably you can do that up until as long as you want.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed doing those, and I learned how to actually wrestle in those shows. Those were the first shows where I didn't have time constraints. I didn't have a stiff 6 minutes that I had to go out with entrances.
Yeah.
And I got to work guys like Billy Gunn and D'Lo and Rhino, and we wouldn't call matches backstage. We would call a few spots, call the heat, and then call the finish. And when you learn how to do that, then you are actually learning how to work, because what you have to do then is you have to listen to the crowd. And if you listen to the crowd will tell you what they want. I was working Billy one night, and he told me, he's like, cut a promo. And by the time he came out, I had this place hating me so much. He looks at me, he goes like, man, we ain't doing nothing tonight. And it's like, but if we had called a big, long, extravagant match back there, then it might not have been as good as it was. So I'm thankful for the time I got to spend there, because I feel like I actually got to learn just more about wrestling.
Yeah.
Cool.
Definitely. Yeah. Right. Here comes now the big success, YouTube. I'm not saying you wasn't successful.
Oh, God.
So you've had YouTube a couple of months now, and as you corrected me earlier on, 106.
I love how you guys think it's a success. It's still too early for me to call it success.
If we had 106,000 subscribers,
yeah, I mean, how many we got? And we think we're doing well.
We'd be singing Shane McMahon's song around the house in our pants. To be quite frank, well, I might.
You do know subscribers is all of the ego play.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing I've learned. But thank you guys. Thank you so much.
No, it is really good, and congratulations for that. What started this all, and how did you end up coming about? So I've seen quite a few clips. I've seen when you've kind of pulled a wrestler out of the bit of paper, and it was like Shawn Michaels, and you went on and explained about what he was like. Yeah. What made you sort of do that, and how did it all come about?
Well, it wasn't my idea. If you would have asked me 6 months ago, if you would have gave me a crystal ball and told me 6 months ago, you'll have a YouTube channel with over 100,000 subscribers, I would have laughed in your face, because I'm not the social media guy. I'm just not. I had a guy contact me who had several successful other YouTube channels, and he sent me a very nice message saying, "Hey, Maven, I'm so and so. I run these channels. I make this much per month," which got my attention. He was like, "I've always wanted to do." He's like, "I've always had an idea of doing a wrestling channel with the former WWE wrestler. Love to run some ideas by you." And like literally, the money that he told me he made, that got a Zoom call with me. And so we set up a Zoom call for the following week, and we literally. He told me this idea, and everything he said made sense. He was like, listen, he's like, wrestlers do it wrong. He's like, all wrestlers want a podcast. And he's like, in podcasts, they're just overdone. Everybody's got one. And if you do a podcast, it's just going to get just swallowed up. No offense. And I'm like, none taken. He's like, I've got an idea of let's give these people, let's make people YouTube content about wrestling rather than making wrestling videos and putting them on YouTube. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. And I did my homework for probably a good month and learned. And he showed me obviously guys like Mr. Beast and stuff. And you find out little nuggets and bits and pieces on how they manipulate the algorithm to get people to stay through the whole video and shit like that. And it's literally just trying to put something different out that other wrestlers don't do. But I hope other wrestlers do. I hope other guys follow my lead. Hell, my success can only help other people's and vice versa. If Matt Cardona comes out, puts a good video out, hell, it might lead to my video next. Somebody that doesn't know me might stumble on my shit. So that's and then all right. So then this guy's he's from out Midwest, and he flies in, and I mean, our first meeting, we were sitting down. Our goal was to get 8 to 10 videos filmed, and we got about, I would say, 8 done, but we still didn't know what we had. And then about a month into film, editing them, he called me and he's like, "Yo, I think we're on to something here." And the rest of it's just been a whirlwind. We've met 3 times. We've gotten together 3 times to film, and the next time I'm actually going out to his place to film. And I still can't believe it. Like, I'm still waiting to put a video out and like 8 people watch it, and I'll be like, okay, this seems more like it.
We should do this. We've got the best series on podcast. We've got the top 10 series, man. That's
best top 10s. That's us. We love our top 10. It's crazy though about YouTube. I remember the first time we had like over 500 people view one of our shows that we done. And I'm like, Adam, over 500 people have viewed this in like 24 hours. He's like, I can't believe it. And it is like you, Maven. I was like, we're just 2 dudes talking to former wrestlers, or we just review Raw, or we review SmackDown, or AEW, or we're just dudes talking into a microphone.
To be fair, though, it was about CM Punk being fired. That was literally
that video blew up. Yeah, that went mad for us. Yeah, that went absolutely.
Well, and there's certain stuff that he's taught me that you can put in the title. Like, and he told me, he was like, I think he thought he was gonna hurt my feelings when I have no ego. He told me, he was like, "Yeah, we're not going to use your name for the title. Maven reacts to." He's like, "No one's going to click on that." But WWE wrestler reacts to.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, now we're getting people's interest. And it's just small things like that, or the thumbnails. I feel like the biggest idiot in the world when we're taking the pictures for the thumbnails, but they work. They fucking work. Like, they're so stupid. They're so stupid to me. But people react to them. And you can get people that literally will click on your video because of a thumbnail. Yeah. And just all other small little things that you tweak. Like, all right, here's another good, for instance. Like you said, list videos do really well. And when he told me that, I was like, holy shit. Then I started thinking, the people I watch list stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Because I want to know what number 1 is. I want to know so bad, It's
our favorite. It's one of our favorite things to do. We do them on like weekly. Adam's got about 100 of them coming out of his arse that he messages me every week about. We're doing this one this week. I think this week's our top 10 heels or top 10 baby faces,
Yeah, and do something smart and do something like snide in the beginning where you're like, today we're going to be talking about our top 10 heels, and a little hint. Number 1 might be one that you disagree with. Something to make the people say, "Well, fuck! Now I got to see who number 1 is."
Yeah, that.
We should just go on.
Yeah, I just say something small and insignificant like that. Because what I've learned about the YouTube is it's all about time on. Like when because I look and see how they figure out how they pay you. It's all about how people spend on your channel. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
Do people and how much do people spend on certain videos? Like, and it's funny you mentioned that because we put our first video out and I'm scared to look. Like, even to now, I'm terrified to look. But I looked and I was like, it was like 571 views on our first video. And that blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
I'm like, because I'm not egotistical enough to think that 1 million people woke up 2 months ago wondering what I was doing. No, there's no way. But, and I text him and I'm like, "Yo, dude, 571 views." And he's like, "Nah, I'll let you know when we really have something here." And the next morning it had blown up, and it was like, and I couldn't believe it was like 120,000, and I just like had to take a double take at it.
Yeah.
And then my phone starts going off, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is real."
Hopefully that'll be us when we put this video about you, Maven. We'll email you and be like, "Holy shit."
I know, and I feel bad because like I'm still not that big of a draw. People just like the channel, and I think
it's an amazing channel, brother. You don't put yourself down. It's a great channel.
Well, I think we're providing a need. And I think it's like literally, I honestly, I think I got to the idea first, and I don't know how.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's nothing special I'm doing, but like, we're just answering questions. Like how many guys, are going to talk about their own steroid use? I don't give a fuck. Like, I'll do it. I don't care.
Yeah.
We should get, it's easy for our top 10s, Andy. We just get our other colleague, Dave, to come on. Because his top 10s ridiculous.
His top 10s are absolutely ridiculous. That boy should not be allowed to watch wrestling sometimes. I love him, but don't let him watch wrestling.
Yeah. Maven, we're coming out of time. So before we let you go, can you just tell everyone, where can they get hold of you? What's your YouTube channel? What have you got coming up, and how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, thank you. I usually don't have anything to promote, but it's weird now I do. Just go to YouTube and type my name in, Maven Huffman, and it'll take you. I don't know how many videos we have. I think we have like 8 regular videos, and we put a video out every Friday at noon. We actually did an extra one this week, but because I interviewed Chris Van Vliet, so that just went up today as well. And then on Instagram, Maven Huffman. Just look it up. To all those people out there that support the channel, and just I can't thank them enough. No one's more shocked than I am, and no one's more humbled, and it makes me want to just keep putting out. Now I sit and I just constantly, and me and him we're texting back and forth all the time what we think will make a good video.
If it helps, since you've been on, you've now got to 107,000. So we must have done something for you.
Yeah, we've done so. Must be your bald head.
Wow.
There you go.
1,000.
They probably think you formed a tag team with Maven.
Hey, if you guys got me 1,000 views in an hour, we're going on next week at the same time.
Yeah. We'll be there. But Maven, thanks so much for coming on. People told us when we started doing this kind of thing, they're like, you're going to meet some wrestlers. They're just going to be blunt. You're not going to enjoy it. I can tell you, my hand on heart, I've absolutely loved this hour. Yeah. You're one of the nicest guys that we've actually had on this channel. I humbly mean that. I'm so glad to see you doing well with the YouTube. I've followed all your career throughout from Tough Enough. You're more than just a kick in the back as to the Undertaker. The content that you're putting out is truly, and you're a Washington Commanders fan. It doesn't get much better than that.
It does not. And I'm gonna hold you to that. I want to go on your podcast about the Commanders.
Brother, I'll get the contacts. I will email you. I'll email you tomorrow, man. We'll make that happen in the next couple of weeks.
That sounds good. Guys, it was my pleasure. I love the fact that I'm able to just extend what we're doing to where you guys are at. I'm sorry it's raining there. That's a shocker.
Oh, breaking news. Man, you might as well tell me water's wet.
But guys, thank you so much, man. The fact that you said that, I promised my mom before she passed. She was like, "Don't you ever change, no matter what comes." And I'm a man of my word, and I hope that I'm still the same guy I was before all the wrestling stuff started. I hope.
Oh man, 100%. We need to get you over to the UK, a few wrestling conventions, brother. We need to get you over here, man.
I can be talked into it. I promise you that.
We'll sort that out. But Maven, thanks so much, my friend. It really means the world to us. Good luck with everything that you're doing. I will email you tomorrow, and we'll talk some Washington Commanders. We're going to do that. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been another great episode of the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. Yeah. I've been your host, Andy Burrows. That's been Adam McCousins with the amazing Maven. Maven, you can take us out if you want. You can take us out.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Hitting the turnbuckle, guys. I'll be honest, I didn't know about your stuff until we agreed to do this a few weeks ago, but you guys do some good stuff, and hey, you got a new fan and a new subscriber in me just from this. So guys, make sure you're checking out Hitting the Turnbuckle. Check out not only my interview, but all the interviews. Check out their top 10s and join me, because if we did 1,000 subscribers this week, I'm coming on with them again next week. Guys, thank you so much, and take care of yourself.
Will do.
Take care of yourself, Adam. All right.
I will do. Buckle down, everybody. Stay safe.